Mitchell, a three is good. Plus the foul. A chance for four. Only three to shoot. Gonna have to make something happen. Clark through the lane, reverses it in. Post feed. Boston. Oh, beats the clock. Wow. Indiana will reset. Clark fire away. You bet.
Hello, Fever fans, and welcome back to the Pacers Fever Show, your go-to spot for everything Indiana Fever basketball. And today we've got a gritty win that we're going to talk about for the Indiana Fever. On the second night of a back-to-back without Caitlin Clark in the lineup, the Fever went into Dallas and pulled out a very tough, hard-fought victory. After a string of games where closing out has been the issue, the Fever finally find a way to finish out the game, but not without giving us a few gray hairs along the way, from defensive lapses to clutch buckets. We saw it all. And now, with their win in the back pocket, the Fever turn their attention to the biggest test yet this season, and that is the Commissioner's Cup Championship on Tuesday night in Minnesota against the league's best Minnesota Lynx. We're breaking it all down, the growth, what's next, and right here on the Patriot Fever Show, we're going to talk all things Indiana Fever for the coming days. So buckle up, let's get into it. A big win in Dallas coming off of a back-to-back. Like I said, this was an important win for the Indiana Fever as they have really started to struggle here without Caitlin Clark, looking for answers, searching for that growth, and trying to find out how they can close out teams late in the third and fourth quarters, because that has been the difference in a lot of these games. And you look back at some of the losses because of the inability to close out teams, the Fever have dropped down the standings. They got below 500, and there's not really been an end in sight. This team has been very up and down to watch this season. A lot of that due to the fact that they've had some injuries to really important players, including Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White in and out because of personal reasons, DeWanna Bonner, the drama surrounding that. This team just has had a hard time finding its footing. And for a young team, that can be very difficult when you're dealing with a lot of inconsistencies in the locker room, and not any fault of their own, really. Just the happenstance of a circumstance that's like a very difficult one to navigate. I think as a young player, we talked about this some in the last episode. I think as a young player, it's got to be very difficult when a veteran player, a two-time WNBA champion, a person that's been on an all WNBA team, someone that's been a star in this league, it's difficult to obviously make up for that loss when they just step away from the team. But I think it also has to rattle the confidence, maybe rattle the cage a little bit of some of these younger players. Like, why don't they want to play with us? What did we do wrong? How can we handle this situation? And I don't think there was anything in particular, at least it's not been reported, that happened inside of the locker room that really changed this. I think it was a lot of the fact that DeWanna Bonner comes over on a really big contract, having been a proven veteran. The style of play, she talked about preseason, how that style of play was difficult to keep up with the young guns, I think she called them. And I think it was just not a good fit for her. I think she felt like it was a comfortable situation because Stephanie White was coming over and was her head coach in Connecticut. And then when she got to Indiana, I think just the way they play stylistically, and then the fact that she was pushed to a bench role, a reserve role, maybe not getting as many minutes as she thought. I think a lot of that wrapped up into the decision of why she ended up leaving. There's a lot of things going on online. Obviously, DeWanna Bonner posted basically like, just wait till you find out kind of thing, why I left. But the fact that she currently still sits as a free agent, she will make her way through waivers, and there's not been any reports as to who will sign her, but it sounds like it really is just coming down to the Phoenix Mercury making some room in their roster to try to sign her, but they've had a hard time. They actually just made a signing, and it wasn't her, because Megan McConnell, TJ's sister, was released by the Mercury after, I believe it was a knee injury. So we will see what DeWanna Bonner's situation looks like going forward. We won't talk too much about her, I guess, until really anything comes out that is pertinent to what happened with her in Indiana. But again, I think a lot of it was just not a good fit, and both parties decided to go different directions, and probably best that they did. But getting into this game against Dallas, this is a huge game because coming off of a loss to the LA Sparks where the Fever had control most of that game, and then Kelsey Plum happens, the Fever drop a really heartbreaking game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and then have to travel on Friday to Dallas in American Airlines Arena, where they met a sold out crowd, mostly expecting to see Caitlin and Paige Beckers go at it. But because Caitlin has been dealing with an injury, she makes the trip, but she is unable to play in this game. She misses her second straight game of the WNBA season. And it's been a really tough go. I know there's been a lot out about Caitlin as far as just having to go through these struggles in her sophomore season. This is never fun to miss time, and it's got to be weighing on her just because she's not been able to play through a lot of this season so far. And these injuries are very nagging. I mean, you're talking about muscle issues and tendon and that kind of stuff, which is a lot more dangerous, obviously, than something that you can kind of just sit out, let rest, and then it gets all the way healthy. I think with these soft tissue injuries and some of the stuff that she's dealing with right now, I think that those things can, if not completely healthy, they just kind of linger and flare up. And I think that's what she's going through. And I think that obviously with a groin injury, this can be something that lasts quite a bit. And you want it to be 100% healthy, because if you go out there and try to play through it, it can be extremely difficult to get that thing healthy and get back to playing the way that you want to play basketball. So I think that's something that the FIFA are going to take very seriously, just like they did with the quad. I think the quad's fine now. I think a lot of it, and this will help give the quad some rest, but you wonder how much of that had an impact on maybe a groin injury that she had, or if it was weakening that area because she's putting pressure or trying to not put as much pressure on a certain area of her leg. And it causes, a lot of this stuff can cause other things to happen throughout the body. So you just hope Caitlin can get right. And I think it's really tough right now because they're heading into this Commissioner's Cup championship game on Tuesday against the best team in the WNBA right now, and a team that won it last year in Minnesota. You want her to play in that game. She will want to play in that game, especially because $500,000 prize pool is up for grabs when you're talking about winning that championship. And that's a lot of money going towards some of these players that don't get and don't earn as much money in the WNBA, obviously. So I think splitting that prize pool can be big. It can have a huge impact on her teammates. And I think she will want to play. I imagine that if I had to, I don't want to speculate, but I feel like she's trending more towards probably playing than she is not in this game. It really just depends, I think, on how that groin is going. And we're recording this on Sunday. There's not been any updates. I think tomorrow you'll get an update on Caitlin Clark on Monday after practice, or the media meets with Stephanie White and team. I think you'll get clarification on whether you might even get it today, but you'll get clarification on if Caitlin is questionable for that game, or if it's a game time decision, or what it might be. But we'll be keeping our eyes out, and we'll be on X trying to cipher through all of the media to see if she is going to play in this game. So we'll tweet that out when we know, and hopefully she's playing on Tuesday, because again, that's going to be a very tough game against Nafisa Collier and her Minnesota Lynx team. Talking about that will be on Tuesday, so you can check that out. It's going to be on Amazon Prime at 8 p.m. Eastern time in Minnesota. Again, that's July 1st. That is going to be Tuesday night when they play their Commissioner's Cup championship game. And the winner, again, takes home $500,000 as a prize pool, which will be divvied up amongst the players. And then you got the Coinbase chip in, I guess, an extra $120,000 in cryptocurrency to the prize pool. So some crypto, I think, goes different directions. I don't know how cryptocurrency really works, but I guess it's kind of like stocks. I don't know. But we'll see how that goes. And Coinbase, the reason why they are the sponsors of the Commissioner Cup. So that's why they are chipping in their money for the WNBA players. Talking about this Wings game, we're going to get into, and just to mention, I mean, going back, I totally forgot to mention, the reason why I was talking about Caitlin Clark is she's only played 9 games this season. And so it's been, I mean, like I said, it's been such a tough road for her. And this sophomore season is not going the way that I think she intended it to. I think there are a lot of expectations on this Fever team, and they've not really performed in the way that I think a lot of us thought they would. However, they're only 16 games into the season at 8-8. They're back to 500, so they're at a decent spot, obviously. But they're going to want to climb the standings, and right now is really outside of the Commissioner's Cup final does not count towards the WNBA record, but they're going to want to climb, stack some wins here coming up because as we push further and further, it's harder to make up ground on some of these teams as they're starting to kind of, not really divide, but they're trying to gain ground and they're starting to separate from the pack. So going over the standings, I think we should do that now before we head into the game against, talk about this game against Dallas and previewing Minnesota. The Lynx 13-2 in that number one spot in the WNBA. So that is the team we will be taking on Tuesday. Phoenix Mercury are in second place on the time at the time of this recording at 12-4. So they've been playing really good basketball. And again, that's I think where the Fever really thought that they'd be in this mix with the top teams in the WNBA. I think a lot of people picked them 3 or 4, and they can still get there. There's still time, but again, these teams are starting to get further and further away. And the Mercury in second place, 12-4, a place where I think DeWanna Bonner ends up. So she gets her wish to, if she does end up there, to play for a contender, as the Mercury look very good. New York Liberty in third place at 11-4. Atlanta Dream in the fourth spot at 10-6. Seattle Storm in the fifth spot at 10-6. Golden State Valkyries in the sixth spot, and they are 8-7. The Indiana Fever in the seventh spot at 8-8. In the eighth spot are the Washington Mystics at 8-9. And then in the ninth spot, the Vegas Aces at 7-8. Sparks in the 10th spot at 5-11. The Wings 5-13 in the 11th spot. Chicago Sky in the 12th spot at 4-11. And then you have rounding out in last place the Connecticut Sun in 13th, and they are 2-14. So you could pretty much say that the Connecticut Sun season, I think they're going to get the number one pick. They are not a very good team, and unfortunately, one of their wins did come against the Fever at Cambridge. So again, a difficult loss that I think we'll look back on as these standings start to fall and the spots start to fall in place. Again, 44 games are played in the WNBA. So what are we, about a quarter of the way through? No, over a quarter. We are over a quarter. We're about a third of the way through. So it's been tough, and we're hoping that the Fever can get healthy, get right, because they've got some ground to make up. They want to get a home spot in that first round of the playoffs, and in order to do that, they're going to need to get up to where the Atlanta Dream currently sit and the Storm at 10-6. So they have plenty of room to do so. They've got a lot of games left, but we're starting to get closer and closer to that All-Star game, which is in July. And once that happens, it's going to be a real quick end. I mean, we're going to get in the second half of the season, and the Fever are looking up at a lot of teams. So hoping to make up some ground. And like I said, Tuesday will not count against the standings, but the game on Friday did against the Dallas Wings. And the Indiana Fever come out a-blazing. They were up 33-13 at the end of the first quarter. I think there's a point where it was like 29-9. It was ugly for a lot of the game early in the for Dallas, at least, and in front of a sold out crowd, and Paige Beckers playing, Caitlin Clark not. So there was still a lot to see, a lot of star players in this game. And you got to see one of the best games that Kelsey Mitchell's had this season. 10 points in that first quarter led the way for the Fever, followed by 7 points from Aaliyah Boston, 6 from Natasha Howard to open the game. And then the Fever maintained a double-digit lead throughout the second quarter with 9 points from Mitchell in that second quarter, 6 from Boston, and it put Indiana up 13 points heading into halftime. The Wings did start to go on a little bit of a run there in the second half, and then I think it ended up being a 25-13 run leading into the third quarter. Paige Beckers hits a half-court buzzer beater, almost about half-court. It's about like probably, I don't know, it was probably a 30-foot 25 or 27, 30-foot 3-point shot to end the second quarter. Leading into the third quarter, there's some momentum, and the Wings really captured that opportunity to make a run at the Fever. And for a game that started out by the Fever totally dominating inside, outside, getting to the rim, getting to the foul line, scoring from all over the place, that Becker's three-pointer ignited Dallas to go on a run after a steal and then hitting that basket. And eventually in the third quarter, making it just a 5-point game at the end. But a good quarter from Aaliyah Boston again. And then Mitchell had 7 points, Boston with 6. The Wings then take the lead in the fourth quarter after trailing 23 points in the first half and overcoming a 26% shooting performance in the first 10 minutes. Arike scored 15 points for Dallas. She was crucial in that third quarter leading into the fourth. She did sit out quite a bit. The broadcast was talking about when they were going to get her back in there. And Arike never really did until about halfway through that fourth quarter, which was really interesting because she was on a roll offensively. I mean, the Fever had no stops there, and obviously Paige Beckers is going to get hers. She ended up with 27. Beckers did in this game, but Indiana's defense just kind of went non-existent for about 15 minutes there in the third and fourth quarter. Had a really difficult time matching the punch that was coming from Dallas. That crowd started to get into it. You could start to feel the momentum shift, and then teams that start out with these huge leads, they're always concerning because it's like, all right, well, that's going to come back down to earth. I think there was one point halfway through the second quarter where the Fever were still, I think they were still shooting like 80% from the field. So that's going to come back down. And if you are able to weather the storm, if you're Dallas and you're down 12, 14, 15, you got to feel pretty comfortable because that lead's only going to shrink if you just stay consistent and start hitting shots. And if they come back down to earth, and obviously the Fever did, and that was ultimately what happened to get them back into the game. And then Beckers goes on her little run there by herself, and then all of a sudden stepping up, Arike scores 15 in that I think it was that second half, and really flipped the game on its head. I mean, you got really good performances from two very young players. And that's a team watching Dallas. That's a team that I think you could get really excited about because they've got a lot of young guns to really compete with a lot of teams in this league. And I was impressed. Like Paige Beckers, I've watched her play some, not a ton. And so I really got to see what that looked like in the WNBA. And I think that her game translates extremely well. And her jump shot, her ability to get to the rim, and she's very, very similar to Caitlin in ways. Like, the step back that I think it was the third quarter, she had a step back. The amount of space she created between her and I think it was Kelsey Mitchell guarding her at the time. It was, separation of like 4 feet off the dribble on a step back because she kind of hits her with a crossover, steps in first, steps back once more, and then crossover again like she's going, and then steps back even further. And it was like, geez, she created tons of space in a matter of like a second. And again, her jump shot is fluid. She shoots well on the dribble, which is difficult to do. If you've played the game, you know how difficult it is when you're taking off on the dribble and trying to hit shots on a step back. That's extremely difficult to do. And she makes it look so easy. And I think Caitlin, same kind of thing. They make those step backs look like they're the easiest thing to do in basketball, but they are certainly not. But yeah, Paige Beckers, 15 points in the second half. And then Arike had 9 points in the second half. She really, again, didn't play. I want to check her minutes because it was very odd. And they kept mentioning on the broadcast, like, when are they going to bring Arike back in? Arike only played 4 minutes and 23 seconds in the fourth. Now, she was expending all energy in that third quarter. She played the whole third quarter. But I get why the broadcast was questioning it because you go into the quarter break, right? And then if the game's tight, right around the 6th minute, I felt like that's when she probably could have come back in. But she never did return really until the end of that fourth quarter where the Fever started to pull away. And somebody that's really good scoring the basketball, also good on the defensive end. She's quite a force, and so I don't know why it took them as long as it did to get her back into this game. But she's an all NBA, or sorry, all WNBA player from last year. Rike is, and she showed you why, 16 points per game, and I thought played a really good game. Um, just some questions about why maybe she didn't play there in the end. And Becker's played 36 minutes. Wow. Yeah. So I thought really good performances. Alana James, or no, that's not Alana James. It was Asia. Um, Asia, I think that's her name, or Asia. Uh, she had a really good game, 14 points. Hines Allen, 9 points in the game. Quinterly, I thought, provided a nice spark off the bench at times, had 5 points. I thought she was pretty decent in her minutes that she played to kind of alleviate Enrique. And again, this Dallas team, I think, have really good pieces. I think that they are young pieces. I think they're a couple of veterans away from really being competitive. But I was really impressed with just the way they looked. They looked a lot better. I mean, I know they struggled early on in the season, but they looked really good in this game. And I thought fought really well, especially in front of your home crowd. I mean, to come back from 23 and make it a game and you lead in the fourth quarter. They get fouled on an and one there, and I think it was 83-80 at that point. And I thought with that run that they had, but it did seem like they go on that run. And just like when you do in the beginning of the game, when you go on a run, like a really big one, like the Fever did, 33-13, you expend all your energy and then you let them back into it because you kind of lose focus of just stomping on the gas and leaving that, or blowing them out. And I think same kind of thing. I think the Wings, their comeback in the third through the fourth quarter, started in the second. They just ran out of gas at the end, and the defense for the Fever allows 0 field goals over the last 4 minutes and 50 seconds, limiting the home side to just 4 points from free throws. They got a really great fourth quarter from Natasha Howard, Ari McDonald, and Kelsey Mitchell, who combined for 12 points in that stretch where Dallas wasn't hitting anything. So from the 450 mark, those three had 12 points, and I felt really closed out the game like they needed to. And I thought this was why, and Ari McDonald actually started, forgot to mention that she started over Sydney Colson in this one in the absence of Caitlin Clark. And Ari McDonald has been really good since coming over to the Fever. I feel like she really fits this system well. They talked about her after the game, multiple people. Stephanie White, I think Sophie Cunningham was asked about her, as well as Aaliyah Boston. And they talked about the fact that Kelsey Mitchell was talking about the fact that she just does things that this team lacks at times. I mean, defensive intensity, offensive intensity, running out, getting the pace going for that what will be the second unit, because I think she obviously moves to the bench. She'll be excellent for that second unit, spelling Caitlin Clark, spelling Kelsey Mitchell. I think she'll play some 1 and 2. And having that secondary ball handler, somebody else that can run the offense, even when Caitlin needs a little bit of a break, if they're out there together, I think Ari McDonald is perfectly capable of running this offense like we've seen. And I mean, just an infusion of energy. I compare her to she's like the TJ McConnell of the Fever, where it's just like this injection of energy, and she's very likable, very animated. And I think usually the smallest person on the court, she's like a ball of energy and can change games, flip games, and she really did tonight. I mean, she was excellent from the jump and really gave this Fever team a boost that they needed. Going over the Fever stats, Lexi Hull, 3 points. Again, she struggled a little bit shooting the basketball. The good thing though is that this Fever team playing like this, they've got that, scoring can come from every which direction, and tonight it really did. Natasha Howard, 15 points with 13 boards. She was really good. Flash was great at the end of the game, had 2 big 1-and-1. I think the other one was not called a foul. It should have been, but she got bumped twice in the fourth quarter, made some really tough shots. and was a force on the boards. I thought she did a nice job defending as well. She was a plus 16, which was the team best for plus minus. She had 3 steals as well. 21 points for Aaliyah Boston, 6 rebounds. She was great tonight. Kelsey Mitchell has been phenomenal in the absence of Caitlin Clark. 32 points in the 32 points tonight, 7 assists. She was a plus 9. I mean, she was all over the place. Defensively, had the assignment of Paige Beckers at times, and then also Ari McDonald picked her up some. I thought both of them did a really nice job defending, and I felt were crucial in that hot start with Aaliyah Boston and led this team to ultimately closing out the Wings on the road in a second night of a back-to-back. That's a big win for them. Ari McDonald, 13 points, had 6 assists in her first start with the Fever. Sophie Cunningham, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. And then Sydney Colson, 2 points. I thought she had a decent spell off the bench. She had 3 assists in this game. And then Michaela Tempson, some minutes tonight. She's been getting some minutes. She got minutes over Brianna Turner. And Michaela, 3 points. She had 4 fouls. So she got her money's worth, and then 2 rebounds tonight. But I feel like with the rookie, getting her in for these games is really important. And then Dantas scored 24 points for the Brazilian national team on, I think it was on Saturday night. I can't remember which one that was, Saturday or Friday. But she was really good in her national team stint. So they're looking forward to getting Dantas back. I think it's like another week or so, week and a half, until she returns to the Fever. But a big absence in the front court, and they've got obviously Caitlin Clark out. So I think they're playing with 10 players. And so they'll need everybody to contribute in this game coming up, because it's against a team that is very good. And we're gonna flip our attention over to the Minnesota Lynx team, because before we do that, let's go over some notes from this game. Ari McDonald earned her first start as a member of the Indiana Fever, 30th of her WNBA career. Ended the night with 13.6 assists. Indiana's 33-point first quarter marked the most in a quarter this season for the Fever. The 56 points scored in the first half are tied for the 5th most in Indiana Fever history for points scored in a single half. Kelsey Mitchell eclipsed 500 career rebounds, making her the 4th fastest WNBA player in history to reach 4,000 points, 500 rebounds, 500 assists, and 500 three-pointers made. Kelsey Mitchell finished the night with 32 points, extending her double-digit scoring streak to 16 games, posting 10-plus points in every game so far this season. Mitchell became the 3rd Fever player this season to score more than 30 points in a single game, joining Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. And in her return to Dallas, Natasha Howard recorded a double-double with 15 points and 13 rebounds, her 3rd of the season, and 51st of her WNBA career. Yeah, Flash was great tonight. It was a great crowd, great energy in Dallas. They had some great stars there. Mark Cuban was there, Micah Parson from the Dallas Cowboys, Cade Cunningham, Cooper Flagg, Kyrie Irving was there. The stars came out to see this team play, and that was really exciting. And usually is the case with Paige, but also with Caitlin in town. Even though Caitlin didn't play, there was still a really good turnout. So I think a lot of people like to root against the Fever. They also like to root for the Fever. So it's very interesting, because you've got this polarizing star in Caitlin Clark. Either love her or you hate her, I think. And boy, do we love her as an Indiana Fever fan. So who's next on the preview schedule here? We got the Minnesota Lynx. That's going to be the Commissioner's Cup Championship. That will be, again, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Amazon Prime. The Lynx took their season about as far as they could in 2024, pushing the New York Liberty to overtime in Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. They come up short, but Cheryl Reeves' squad is back with vengeance, as they have arguably the best player in the WNBA, and Nafisa Collier, who is their leading scorer. She returned to action after a back injury on Friday night, and she led them over the Atlanta Dream in a very good game, an overtime game. First place, Minnesota Lynx beat the Dream 96-92. Collier ended up playing 40 of the 45 minutes after coming back from her back injury. I think she missed 2 games, maybe a game. I don't know. She's missed games though. Finishing 26 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks. She was 8 of 18 from the field and 8 of 8 from the foul line. Collier, the defensive player of the year, runner up to Asia Wilson for MVP last year, averaging 24.5 points per game in this season. And back on June 17th, was forced to leave in the third quarter because of a back issue. Collier said if it was the playoffs, she'd have been back out there playing the game. But I want to make sure I came back not having any load management, not having minutes restrictions, and is 100% ready to go. So she should be part of the lineup. And, you like to try to beat the best to be the best. And so she will be out there, and the Fever will have a whack at her. And she has been an absolute menace. She can defend with the best of them. She can score with the best of them. She is a lot of fun to watch. And, there's a reason why the WNBA commercial is about Nafisa Collier. She's probably going to win MVP this year. And so the Fever have their hands full in the Commissioner's Cup Championship. I think a really good opportunity to play I think Dallas had a pretty playoff-like environment. Caitlin usually brings that. Like, wherever she goes, there's usually a playoff type environment because of just the profile and the magnitude of her games, even the ones that she's not playing in, because they have already sold out. They moved that game to American Airlines Arena to play there. Then now I think I want to say that the Lynx play in the same home stadium as the Timberwolves, so that'll be sold out. We will get an update on Caitlin Clark if she's going to play. I hope she does, because this will be quite the battle. I'm sure Nafisa Collier will guard her. If she's not healthy, if Caitlin's not playing, Nafisa will probably shift over to Kelsey Mitchell to try to keep her off the score sheet, and she's been very effective in doing so with the other star players on other teams. The Lynx have played like the best basketball team, largely due to the fact that their balanced attack and suffocating defense. Where have we heard this before? Thunder. Yeah, that's right. Defensively minded Lynx team against a high pace team that wants to get out and run. Not necessarily known for being the most physical in the paint. Will let you score in the paint. Rely heavily on getting their points and trying to move the basketball. A lot of picks, a lot of actions in the Fever. So again, a story we've known all too well in Indianapolis as a sports town. We'll get to see on full display as we head into Minnesota, because I think it's a very similar type comparison of the Pacers Thunder, whereas we go in and it'll be Lynx Fever, and it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, these are two teams that I feel like a lot had as contenders. I think that the Fever, when healthy, can contend with this team. I don't know if they can necessarily beat them in a series, especially if the Minnesota Lynx host. But that being said, the Fever, I think, are competitive with them. Let's just say that. Looking at how the Minnesota Lynx have done throughout the season, 84 points per game, 84.2 points per game. That is second best in the league. Field goal percentage, 46.5. That is best for second in the league. 3-point percentage, they are the best 3-point shooting team at 36.9%. They are not the best free throw shooting team, 78.4. That is best for seventh. But it is a lot better than the Fever, because the Fever are dead last. That is not good to be that poor of a free throw shooting team, especially if you want to contend and compete. The one place where I feel that the Fever might have an advantage, we'll talk about this a little bit, is they don't play with a traditional big. It's a lot of forwards and guards. They don't really have that big bruiser inside that's going to make you pay. And I think Aaliyah Boston, the more that her game progresses, I think the more that she can be an asset against a team like the Lynx. So looking at rebounding, this is why I say this, they are tied neck and neck with The Minnesota Lynx with rebounding, the Fever are 33.7. Both teams, that is their average over the games that they have played. So pretty consistent as far as rebounding is concerned. Assist, the Lynx 23.7. They like to get their players involved. The Fever are seventh. They are 19.3. So a team that likes to move the basketball and is very good at doing so. They don't turn the ball over too much. They are fifth best in the league when it comes to turnovers. The Lynx are. Again, looking at their defensive prowess, I think that is something that is going to be on display early and often. They are the best defensively rated team in the WNBA at 94.7 is their defensive rating. The next closest are the Liberty, and the Liberty are a good defensive team, 97.3. They are not like the Lynx. I mean, the Lynx are, like the notes say, suffocating and can do things to you that frustrate you, that cause you to turn the basketball over. Um, they are a team that not necessarily, they don't really rely on points off of turnovers, but they're to the point where they will get stops, and they're not necessarily the best rebounding team. So you could take advantage there where you get some offensive rebounds, keep those possessions alive. But their ability, it's really weird because when a team is that good defensively, you would think they're a great rebounding team, but they're really not a great rebounding team. I'm interested to see what exactly the Lynx do with Aaliyah Boston, because, like I said, they're not a big team. They are not a team that really plays with size. It's a lot more of the team running and getting out and scoring, and behind Nafisa Collier, providing a punch offensively. So, looking at their players and players to watch, well, first, let's go through their starting lineup. And this was from their last game. So I always try to base it off their last game of the starting lineups, because sometimes, they switch starting lineups, not necessarily them, but other teams. But Bridget Carlson, Alana Smith, Nafisa Collier, Kayla McBride, and Courtney Williams are their starters. And um, when you talk about the players to watch, I mean, it's pretty safe to say on these kind of teams with this talent, it's everybody. I mean, this really is truly a team that gets scoring and rebounding and offensive creation from all sorts of different places on the court. But if you want to talk about, I guess, their leaders, their stat leaders when it comes to scoring, Nafisa Collier 24.5, like I said. Then you have McBride at 15.5. You have Courtney Williams at 13 points per game. Alana Smith 10.9 points per game. Natisha Heidman with 8.1 points per game off the bench. Then you have Jessica Shepard, who scores 7.5 points per game off the bench. Bridget Carlton, 6.7 points per game. So again, like I said, just scoring from everywhere. They also do have Carly Samuelson, and she gets some good points. She gets some good minutes off the bench as well. So this is a really deep team, and a team that I think rely heavily on beating you by putting the ball through the hoop. And I know that that's a pretty, I guess, obvious statement to make, but it's true. This is a team that relies heavily on their offensive abilities and to smash teams in offensively, and then keep you right around that 80-point mark. Like that's dangerous. This team is scary. I think that they have an ability to put the clamps on you, and I think that will be a true test for this Fever team, who at times, and Stephanie White's talked about this, there just needs to be more intensity. There needs to be more focus around being the more physical team, being the more intense team, the faster team. And I think that's going to be a real test. I think that the Fever did really well against Liberty and have done really well against the Liberty this year. One of the top teams. We haven't played the Mercury yet. But where they've really struggled, I mean, they struggled against the Dream, the Atlanta Dream. And so if you look at Atlanta's bigger, obviously. They crushed the Lynx in the paint. The Dream did. So pretty similar in their makeup. I just the Fever and the Lynx, but the Lynx are like the older, better version of them, if I can put it that way. They're kind of like that seasoned version of the Fever, where the Fever in a couple years could be like this. They really the Fever need a really good defensive player at some point, but uh, I just I I guess I worry about the physicality of this game being too much for the Fever, especially without Caitlin Clark. Um, there's two scenarios that we can talk about. If the Fever play with Caitlin and the Fever don't play with Caitlin in this game coming up against Minnesota, you're going to have different outcomes. I truly believe that. I feel like without Caitlin, it's going to be extremely tough to beat this team just because you need your primary ball handler, one that and Ari McDonald would be fine, I think, but I think this is a game where you truly see the difference between a ball handler and a point guard like Ari McDonald versus the very highly touted, highly talented point guard and Caitlin Clark, right? A runner up for what would be the MVP when healthy. And I think you will see that quite a bit in this game where the physicality of the Lynx is just going to be too much of a problem for the Beaver, and maybe early on in this season, I think that the Fever still have a lot of room to grow when it comes to, and this is again the inability to close out teams, the inability to keep large leads, uh, some of the decisions that they make, the turnovers that they get into, the lack of rebounding at times, the lack of focus on the defensive end at times. I mean, you hate to point to one thing and make it an excuse, but youth is a lot to do with it. And because their best players are very young, the Fever, there's still some room to grow, right? And um, the Fever are arriving at being a contender. The Lynx have been contenders. They've been in the WNBA finals. They know what this is like. They know how to win. And so you stack all that up and you don't maybe don't have a 100% healthy Caitlin Clark, or might not even have Caitlin Clark at all. This is a really tough ask to go on the road to play in a championship like environment, to get the money um, to each of these players that Nafisa Collier will want to get for her team. And so odds are stacked against them. You know what? I'm going to look up. I haven't looked up this. This is usually pretty interesting because it'll have the betting line. It's funny. I'm looking up betting lines and I just saw a tweet from Shams Shrania for the NBA Insider, said that Malik Beasley was in trouble for betting, which isn't shocking. But yeah, no, I wanted to see what is the opening line for Tuesday night's game, betting line. So if you're a gambler, I can help you out here. Now, I'm not going to give you like what to bet, but I don't know if I got to try to find, I guess I got to search it. Fever. It might not be open yet. No, because the Lynx play today. Lynx Fever betting lines. I want to see what they are favored by on July 1st. Looks like, yeah. Okay, here are the lines. The Lynx are favored -5.5. Okay, so not like crazy, nothing too bad. That'll all depend too, I think, on Caitlin, honestly. But the Lynx do play today, so the Fever will have a much longer break to get right before the Lynx do. The Lynx play the Connecticut Sun tonight at 7. So will be interesting. They will be the best WNBA team coming into this game. And so the Fever will have quite the test. But like I said, players to watch: Nafisa Collier, Kayla McBride, and Courtney Williams. Good defenders, good scorers. Alana Smith, too. Keys to the game: using Aaliyah Boston early and often. I think her size can be a tremendous asset. I think their tallest player comes in at 6'4". Aaliyah Boston, I think, 6'5", and plays much more of a big role rather than their big plays more of a spread big. I think she does have the opportunity to take advantage here, and I think you could use her, especially if Caitlin's out. You're going to have to rely heavily on Aaliyah. Aaliyah could get some offensive rebounds. I think Natasha Howard, too, could be a threat on the inside as well. I think both of them could really mop the glass up. I think that they're a much better. I mean, their numbers say they're the exact same rebounding, but I'd actually give the favor in a head-to-head matchup. I'd give the favor as far as getting rebounds and lengthening possessions and getting second chance opportunities. Points in the paint. I mean, it's been the one place where I think the Lynx have really struggled because they just don't have the size to match at times. And I think it was a 20-point advantage for the Dream over the Lynx in the paint. So I think if you can get there, if the Fever can get the basketball inside, which Ari McDonald's good at doing much more, I think, than Colson, and if Caitlin's playing, she's very good at getting Aaliyah Boston involved. I think you got to. I think you got to play the screen and roll game, get Nafisa Collier off of Kelsey Mitchell, or kind of run that Mitchell Boston screen and roll to try to put them into some actions to get Nafisa Collier out of the way for Kelsey, but also capitalizing on that switch, maybe get Nafisa on Aaliyah and see if she can get some foul trouble. But I think Aaliyah Boston is probably the X factor in this game, honestly. Like, I really do feel like for the Fever that she would be the one that would be the threat for the Lynx. Contain Nafisa. I know that's hard, but Collier is going to get hers. I think you can limit her ability to get others involved, but also kind of lock him down in places, or sorry, her down in places. There are people texting me at the same time, so I got distracted. But yeah, running her all over the floor, containing her, making her work on the defensive end, because when you're making people work on the defensive end, the offensive game can struggle a little bit just because of fatigue. So the more you can get her running off of actions, trying to chase down Kelsey Mitchell, I think that this would be helpful, or Caitlin Clark if she's playing. And then speed them up. They're 12th in pace, the Fever in 6th. That's a really slow pace for how good their offense has been at times this season. But with a really good defensive team, I will say I think it's harder for a stellar defense to have an offense on the other side where the offense is a high-paced offense, because like something's got to give. And I think the pace there, with the way that they defend, they try to muddy up the waters. They try to get in your face. Late shot clock shots, that usually slows down your side of the basketball on the offensive end too. So I think that the way that the Lynx defend, I think if you can get out and run, don't let them set their defense. I think that's really important. Obviously, attack the paint, get downhill, get Ari running into those gaps down the hill, and running at their defense to try to make them defend on their back foot. And that's where you can expose them, I believe, is pace, because pace can oftentimes make a defense unsettled if you are able to hold on to the basketball. And that's going to be a thing too, is holding on to the basketball. Even though you're speeding them up, that doesn't mean going so fast that you're turning the ball over at an exceptional rate, because we've seen what that can do. If you can get 15 to 20 turnovers from a team that just completely destroys any kind of offense that you try to run. So that's what the Lynx will do. They'll try to turn this younger team over, a team over that might not have their best ball handler and point guard. But even if they do, I mean, Caitlin Clark, that's the one thing I think she really needs to work on, is hanging onto the basketball. She tries to get the ball into different areas, and that can't really happen against a defense like Minnesota. So that'll be something that will need to be watched if Caitlin's playing. If she's not playing, I'm interested to see how Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson / Kelsey Mitchell can handle the ball handling duties, because I think that's something that the Lynx can take advantage of. Indiana turning the ball over. So looking ahead, again, like I said, that game, it'll be interesting. I would favor the Lynx in this game coming up, just because they are the best team in the WNBA. Without Caitlin, I just don't know how the Fever will be able to match what the Lynx have talent-wise, being on their home floor. It's going to be a really tough game. This will be a really big test for Indiana. I think it'll be somewhat competitive, but I don't know if the Fever really have what it takes to take down this Lynx team at this time. And then looking ahead, regular season, once we get back into the regular season, we're going to have games that count. Again, that game does not count against your record, that Commissioner Cup championship. So that'll just be a really fun game to watch, and $500,000 on the line. Thursday, July 3rd, against the Vegas Aces. The Fever are headed back home for a nice home stretch, because they will have needed it. It's been a tough stretch going from the West Coast games, 3 in a row, back to Indianapolis for 1 game, and then fly out that same night to go back to back against Dallas in Dallas. Like, what an insane part of the schedule. It does get much better as July approaches. They have a lot more home games. They do have like an East Coast swing here coming up. That'll be a really good test as well. But right now we're focusing on, well, you know what? Let's just read off the games in July. Well, this is what July is looking like as we close out June. July 3rd, Vegas Aces, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Prime Video at Gamebridge. July 5th, that's Saturday, against the Sparks back at Gamebridge Fieldhouse at 7 p.m. That's weird that that Los Angeles has to go back there. July 9th versus Golden State. That game will be at Gamebridge Fieldhouse on Wednesday, July 9th. Golden State, 12 p.m. That's the weird one. Why is that game at 12 p.m.? It's on NBA TV. July 9th. Is that a holiday? What? Why is that July 9th? Oh, okay. We're celebrating National Cookie Day, Sugar Cookie Day. I don't understand why they're playing at noon on July 9th against Golden State. That's got to be wrong, right? Like, ESPN has to have that wrong. Let me check my phone. July 9th. No, it says noon. I don't understand. Like, what is July 9th? Anyway, yeah, Wednesday, July 9th, Golden State at Gamebridge at 12 noon, NBA TV. Friday the 11th, that is against the Atlanta Dream at Gamebridge, 7:30 p.m. on Ion. Sunday, July 13th, against the Dallas Wings at 1 p.m. ABC, ESPN Plus at Gamebridge. And then they go on the road for that East Coast trip. It's Tuesday, July 15th at Connecticut Sun, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN at TD Garden. That's, I believe, in Boston is where they're playing that, because that is Boston's home arena, the Celtics. Wednesday, July 16th. So they will stay in the Northeast area. New York Liberty on Wednesday, July 16th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports Network at Barclays Center. And then they've got the All-Star game back in Indianapolis. And then they head back out. So I guess that's not really an East Coast trip. Well, it is. But then they go back out to the East Coast to play the New York Liberty again on Tuesday, July 22nd. So 6 days in between that, but they will have the All-Star game. Caitlin Clark will be master of ceremonies there. So that'll be interesting. I hope she's rested up. We've seen what that did to Tyrese last year. It just wore them down. But yeah, Tuesday, July 22nd at New York, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, ESPN Plus at the Barclays Center. July 24th, that's Thursday. That's against the Vegas Aces at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Prime Video at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And then July 27th at Chicago, that's a Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC at the United Center. And then the last game in July will be Wednesday, July 30th versus the Phoenix Mercury, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN3 at Gamebridge. So that's how July is looking. A pretty favorable schedule. They've got 6 games, 7 games at home in July, only 4 on the road. They've got that nice break. They'll be home for the All-Star game. So they'll be able to enjoy those festivities. Just hope Caitlin doesn't overexert herself there. She'll want to play in the game. She's already voted into the game pretty much, even though she's played 9 games. She's master ceremony. She'll be doing a lot around the city. I mean, they'll parade her around just like they did Halliburton when it was in Indy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what All-Star game is looking like. I hope it's not crazy. Hope it's just an easy level work for Caitlin and she can get healthy and stay healthy for the rest of the season, because again, season ends September 9th. So, I mean, July will go quick. You got that All-Star break in there. You got some days off in there. A lot of games at home, some really good games at home, some good games on the road. I mean, this is a tough schedule coming up, even though it's at home. I mean, you've got to play. I mean, Vegas has not been as good as I think people expected, but you're talking about Golden State, who's above you in the standings, the Dream, 2 games at the Liberty. You've got a game against the Mercury, and then again 2 games against Vegas. So pretty good test, I think, for the Fever coming up. And then you got that game on Tuesday against the Lynx. So Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun to see what the Fever can do coming up in these games ahead. So that'll do it for today's episode of the Pacers Fever Show. The Fever won a big game against the Dallas Wings and have momentum heading into Commissioner's Cup Championship on Tuesday night. Will Caitlin play? Will she not? How did the Fever do with her? How did the Fever do without her? That'll be interesting to note. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, follow us on social for all the latest updates, analysis, and post-game reactions. We are the Pacers Fever Show on socials, and you can email us at the Pacers Fever Show at gmail.com with comments, questions, or whatever you want to chat about. You can find our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Again, always looking for co-hosts for these or guests. So if you're interested, just shoot me a message. We will be talking Fever rest of the season, what that all looks like. We'll be breaking down Commissioner's Cup final. I'll get that episode hopefully out on Wednesday at some point. I know July 4th is coming up and I'll be out of town, so I won't be able to record. I meant to look at what that schedule looked like because there will be some games coming up that I will miss because I will be celebrating the holiday coming up. So, and I know it's one of the lowest as far as listenership. So I don't think we're going to do an episode at all coming up after Commissioner Cup final. We won't be doing another episode, I believe, until probably Sunday. So that will leave. Yeah, we'll talk. Okay, so we'll talk Vegas Aces and the Los Angeles Sparks game on Sunday. I'll record something Sunday, so hopefully have that out by Monday of that week or following week. So that'll be Monday would be July 7th is when our next episode will be. After we are going to recap the Lynx game. I'll have that recap. We'll preview the Vegas game and the Sparks game, and then final. And then after that, we won't have another episode until probably that following Monday. So enjoy your break. If this is the last episode that you'll listen to us for we head into break. If you're going to catch the next episode, we'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time when we will be talking about the Fever and how they fare against the Minnesota Lynx in Commissioner Cup final. And we'll be previewing those two games coming up on in the July 4th weekend. So again, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.